had the idea for the Idea Foundry after I found out that my artist sister is a much better maker than I am. I studied engineering for 100 years in school, and maybe if I had an idea, I can write a computer program about it, but my sister, who's a sculptor and a welder and an artist, if she or any of her art friends had an idea, they just made the damn thing. And that made me rather jealous. So I put together a place with a few tools, made a website, opened the doors, and glad to have made about 500 new creative friends. We'll blur it out. In 2008, I opened the first incarnation of the Idea Foundry. It was in a small 2,000 square foot garage. They had just paved the concrete. It was a dirt floor for 100 years before we moved in. And I bought a few woodworking tools, opened the door, and it was hot, dusty, dirty, dark, crowded, inhospitable, and I loved it. So the original kind of garage version of the Idea Foundry, it was a great place to meet other creative people, other artisans, a few techies. It wasn't really, to be honest, a great place to actually make stuff. It was a little bit too dark and dusty, but there was such energy and such a passion for a place to start a business, a place to meet other technical people, and just a place to hang out, that there was a life that kind of took itself on. And after a couple of years, we realized that we really need to graduate to a brighter, bigger, more practical space. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago, the Franklinton Development Association, they said, hey, we like what you're doing across town. We've got this great 100-year-old factory here in the emerging neighborhood of Franklinton. We want you to bring your brand of mischief to our neighborhood and serve as an anchor tenant in the revitalization of the space. And we said no thank you, because we've seen creative groups move into downtrodden neighborhoods. They bring sidewalk life, art, festivities. People come, coffee shops come, condos start springing up, and the property prices start going up, and in fact often price out the creative groups that helped to rebrand the neighborhood. So we said, if we're moving across town, we really need to buy the building. That way we're going to be captains of our ship for the next 25, 50 years, have the confidence to uproot and really start something special. So that's what we did. Thankfully they were creative, worked out a really interesting way to finance it. Came here 3 years ago and couldn't be happier. On our first floor, we have our workshops: welding, woodworking, blacksmithing, jewelry, electronics, robotics, 3D printing, metal casting. It's a great place to actually make physical things. But we've known for a long time that more than the value of our tools is the value of the community attracted to them. So we've needed a place, classroom space, conference room space, co-working and offices, and event space where we can actually convene, and 50 or 100 of us can trade tips and tricks, listen to a speaker. So we're glad that about 6 months ago we opened up our co-working space, which has about 30 offices for startups, a couple hundred seats for co-workers, classrooms, conference rooms, events areas, and that has really opened up a whole new dimension to the Idea Foundry. So I like to say, maybe in the workshops, if you have an idea, we can help turn that into a product, and then go into the co-working space, have people help you take that product and turn it into a business. And of our maybe 700 total members, about a third of them are entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs. So there's a lot of dynamism under our roof. So looking around the corner, and that's something that we like to do here at the Idea Foundry. I like being on the bleeding edge of what's new and interesting. Right now, we have things like 3D tools, 3D printers, laser cutters, and we've learned that the bottleneck to actually using these devices isn't making the part on the tool, it's making the design for that tool. So if you're a talented sculptor, you can carve a piece of wax. Now there are virtual sculpting softwares where you actually wear a heads-up display, virtual reality goggles, and use these wireless controllers to digitally carve a floating sculpture in front of you. And then you can 3D print it, or you can machine it. So in 10 years, I dare say, we might not actually have any tools here. It might be all digital design, and then you either email those files to a company that then mails you back a piece that they can make much cheaper than we can make here, or we have spectacular 3D printing metal devices that just make everything for you. So it's still fun to use good old-fashioned tools and actually make stuff, but I think in the future, the faster we can take an idea out of someone's head and put it digitally in their sphere or build it physically, that's really going to be our purpose. And I think it's hard to anticipate what a quarter century from now might look like, but I think it's going to be empowering people to realize their ideas much easier than you can today.